Hello and welcome to another episode of Blake's Take, where I unpack customer experience in 3 minutes or less. Today I want to talk to you about why counting your dollars is ruining your customer experience. Warren Buffett has a wonderful quote that says that essentially you really can't trust people who are cheap, that people who are cheap are not honest. And perhaps you've noticed with people you've interacted with that are cheap, they have this certain approach on life where maybe they expect everything for free, but they're not willing to invest. When it comes to relationships, that can really take its toll. Perhaps you go out to lunch with this person and they never want to treat or pay their half. And there are other manifestations of this type of scenario that are just not fun. It's not that fun to hang out with people who are cheap when you're going out. The reason I'm talking about people who are cheap is because I want to talk about brands that are cheap. The reason I want to talk about brands that are cheap is I had an experience on a recent flight from United. I was flying from Melbourne to the US, and I, of course, know about the recent news from United Airlines that they have a new coffee they've instituted. They've replaced their old watery coffee with Illy, which is, I believe, an Italian brand, and I love coffee. I will do anything for a good gourmet cup of coffee. So the flight from Melbourne to the US is about 14 or 15 hours. It's grueling. So I was very excited to go to the stewardess and say, "Hi, would you mind serving me a cup of coffee on this flight?" But I was very disappointed to hear the stewardess say, "Oh, sorry, we are just using the rest of our old coffee before we use this Illy coffee you speak of," because of course I knew the exact brand. So I took my watery brown coffee from the stewardess and sulked a little and then went back to my seat. But can you imagine an airline as powerful and influential and rich as United, that they, even though it made all these announcements about this customer experience program where they're instituting new wonderful coffee, they are still going to be cheap and use the rest of this watery brown stuff until they run out of it. And it just reminds me that so many companies will just do anything to save a dollar, anything. And they're not considering that every time I have an interaction like this with the airline is basically one ding on that relationship I have with that airline. I would gladly switch to another airline. In fact, if Virgin flew to Australia, I would absolutely fly Virgin. And I had loyalty points, of course, too. So this idea of being cheap as a person or cheap as a brand is somewhat similar. And the reason most companies don't have any customer experience program is they're really not willing to let go of their quarterly profits in dollars. You have to stop counting every single dollar for each quarter, and you have to kind of have faith and invest in these relationships, and then in the long term you'll see a return. There is such a stark difference between the Zappos companies of the world and, say, United Airlines, where Zappos just kind of has faith in the customer. Even recently, I returned a pair of shoes that I had bought 6 months ago, and I realized this pair of shoes was just not going to cut it. I was never going to be able to wear these shoes. They took the shoes back, no problem. Can you imagine an airline doing something like that? No, they don't trust the customer, and often they will just do anything to save a dollar. And that dollar in the end is going to kill their brand. It's going to kill their business. So in sum, stop counting every single dollar. Be more lenient on your teams. Don't try and look for every single ROI opportunity, because in the end, you will have stronger customer relationships and a more loyal customer following. Thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.